absolutely no shred of the imagination that the Houthis or these poor and poorly equipped snipers on the part of the Houthis and the forces of Ali Saleh, there is no way for them to win anything. Except to cause a lot of headache to the coalition forces and to cause countries like Saudi Arabia
and chaos inside Yemen.
Chaos inside Yemen, and the forces also of the coalition, especially the forces of Saudi Arabia, and I mean special forces like the border guards and so forth, to pay more attention and to spend more more money and more time defending these mountains against a sniper here or a sniper there. And even that, they do not want to kill people, because these snipers are also mixed with a lot of poor and desperate Yemeni citizens who are trying to enter the country of Saudi Arabia in order to survive. Not only the war, but also to somehow find some work and somehow send money to their relatives. And Saudi Arabia has always been welcoming these Yemenis to enter the country, and they will arrange for them visa-wise and iqama-wise and so forth to have an easy and comfortable stay in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we are forces of mercy, we are forces of kindness, we are forces of rescue for Yemen, and these Houthis are basically killers, criminals, and people who aim to harm us and to harm Yemen, and they don't care about human life whatsoever. What a shame. But take it from me and from every soldier at the borders, Saudi Arabia's borders are safe and secure and will always be safe and secure. And our Yemeni brothers, we are going to be nice to them and treat them with great respect. But those snipers who are trying to kill a soldier here or a soldier there will definitely be swiftly responded to in kind.
That's a great. So the great sacrifice of our soldiers will continue for protecting the borders and also restoring hope and legitimacy in Yemen, despite, as you said, Mr. Mohammed, the intention of Houthis to prolong the war and cause casualties. Now we are going to move on to a very important thing when it comes to, you mentioned the supremacy of the air force of the Arab coalition led by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now when it comes to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's interception of many ballistic missiles. Saudi intercepted Yemeni rebel boat rigged with explosives headed for an Aramco oil distribution platform in the southwestern Jazan region, and also the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia continued to intercept many ballistic missiles launched actually to target some locations in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but in vain. How do you perceive also this kind of interception of many ballistic missiles, Mr. Mohammed?
I'm glad you're mentioning this, because the strategy of the Houthis, as well as the collaborators from the part of Ali Abdullah Saleh, is actually twofold, and I overlooked that point. It's basically to infiltrate the border towns and to shoot a soldier here and there, and number two, wherever missiles, ballistic missiles, they still have in their arsenals, they will send it to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. These are very backward ballistic missiles. They are rather imprecise in their hitting any target, and they have inflicted almost minimum harm to an installation or to a facility or to a population, but they are a nuisance. They are just headache. We almost intercepted every single one of them, and basically exploded it in the air before it even hits the ground. But these are two strategies that they have: the snipers and the headache they cause to our border forces, the defense of our borders and Saudi territory, and these ballistic missiles that they send, rather foolishly and without regard to any consideration whatsoever. The coalition forces are absolutely ready to tackle them. And what really matters to I think the coalition and to us as we observe the military effort on the part of the coalition is how these militias, sectarian militias, and rather indifferent militias to any human life, how they hijack the populations of the cities and the districts of the big towns, and in smaller villages they sweep the whole village and they take the people hostages, they take them as human shield, and they operate like that. This is what bothers us. And this is what slows us down from actually invading towns and liberating them and restoring legitimacy to these towns. And the time is on our side. Like if you remember the interview by the Saudi Defense Minister, Prince Mohammed bin Salman,
Deputy Crown Prince.
We take the first strike, we take the initiative, we have the time on our side, and they do not have the time on their side. So we will continue to select the targets we hit. We will continue to select the towns we liberate. We will continue to select the shores we defend. And we will continue to select even the snipers that we hit. As long as we have the time and the ammunition on our side. Remember, we control the air, the sea, and the land in Yemen, and we control a little over 85% of Yemeni territory. And we also have on our side something very, very important, and that is the international community is on our side. They continue to voice that support. I was listening to an interview by the British Defense Minister this afternoon, when he decisively says that we are in defense of the kingdom, we are in total support of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in defending its borders and in defending its territory against the Houthis, and he named them by the name. And you know that the American administration, especially the new one, the Trump administration, is in full support of what the coalition is doing in Yemen and will continue to support it. And I think the only party to lose is the Houthis, the remnants of Ali Abdullah Saleh, and the backers in Tehran and in the Islamic Republic of Iran. We are winning all the way, and we will continue to win all the way. What we want is the good of Yemen. We want Yemen to survive this crisis, and we want Yemen to basically, leave this nasty past behind and begin to build itself from scratch.
That's great. And let's have also, Mr. Mohammed, some statistics about the casualties of the Saudis who have been martyred and killed by the Houthis. More than 140 Saudis, including soldiers and civilians, have been killed since the Yemen war, many of them in cross-border shelling. So, as you said, Mr. Mohammed, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will exert all possible efforts and exhaust also all possible efforts in protecting the Saudi citizens and its borders.
That is correct. And remember these factors: very, very nasty terrain, comprising the borders between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Very, very, very hostile geographical terrain. That is one factor. And the other factor is the very concentration of the Houthis and Ali Abdullah Saleh is to inflict harm to our soldiers protecting these borders. And the time of 2 years plus. And we are only talking about 100 and less than 50 casualties. This is absolutely minimal minimal loss and minimal casualties, and thanks to the wisdom of those who are running the operations. 2 years plus, terrible terrain, and a focus on killing individuals by these Houthis, and we are still only suffering minimal casualties. And in fact, we are even very angry. We don't even want this number. We do not want any casualty to be produced by this war. But if you want very objective military analysis, these are very minimal casualties. And even on the part of the Yemenis themselves, this war has witnessed reasonably minimal casualties in Yemen itself because of the very careful calculation by the coalition. The coalition is not there to destroy Yemen. It is not there to have war with Yemen. It is there for specific jobs, restoring the legitimacy, helping the Yemeni people, and fighting these nasty sectarian and separatist militias. These are the objectives, and these objectives are totally supported by the international community, and we have the upper hand. It is not a messy war. What is messy is what the Houthis are doing. There are now very significant casualties because of cholera and other diseases, because the Houthis will not allow food and medical aid to reach its ultimate destinations. They will not allow harbors like Hodeidah to operate as a rescue harbor to the Yemenis in need. And the Yemenis, long before their revolution of 2011, long after the easing out of from power of the dictator Ali Abdullah Saleh, they have always suffered food shortage, medical shortage, and a lot of shortages. This is known. Yemen has, under 33 years of dictatorship, has scored a very high score in the rank of desperate nations all over the world. I think it is probably among the 10 or 20 poorest nation, desperate nations all over the world, and we do not want to be very quiet about that. We want to do something for Yemen, but we want the political process, the correct political process, to move forward. And these people, Houthis and remnants of the dictator, do not want that. And I can elaborate further on that, Zain. It is not a joke that they do not want that. The very act of taking over the government in 2014 was because they were brainwashed politically by the illusion that Iran is in control of much of the Arab world. It's control of Iraq fully, it's in control of Syria operationally on the ground, it is controlled of Lebanon, it is in control of certain opposition groups in the Gulf, and it is in control. So they foolishly succumbed to the illusion that we can also take over Yemen and be supported by the Islamic Republic of Iran. And that is foolishness, because they did not know that Saudi Arabia will not tolerate that one bit, and they cannot retreat very easily. That is the kill. That is the reason. I'm calling it an illusion because it was and it still is an illusion for them to actually do what they did. There is no need for them to do that. Life politically was moving correctly. There was a political dialogue, there was an outcome of the political dialogue, the dictator is eased out of power, and the Gulf Initiative is operating so successfully. We just wanted to prove to the entire Arab world that Yemen was different. Yemen will go through this so-called Arab Spring smoothly and nicely and without bloodletting, without bloodshed. Somehow these Houthis, as racist as they are, and history attests to their practices, as separate, as sectarian as they have been, and history along as well as the present time actions on their part, attest to that fact. They committed these foolish mistakes and they have to pay the price for that. They really thought that Iran is now in total control of very big Arab capitals, and what is left is Sana'a. And once they entered Sana'a, it was announced almost instantaneously that from Tehran that now we are in control of 4 Arab capitals. Well, there are those in the Arab world that are willing to defend themselves and their neighbors against this nonsense sort of militia mentality, sectarian mentality, and religious mentality on the part of these supreme sectarians, sectarianists in Tehran. Somebody is going to say no to them, as it was said no to them also in the past.
That's great. Mr. Mohammed, that leads to a very important question when it comes to the latest and recent statements of Ali Abdullah Saleh, the former president of Yemen. He said that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has the solution for the Yemeni crisis. How do you perceive this?
He says that in its own context. He says that only as in reference to the legitimate President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi. Whenever Hadi's name is mentioned, Saleh refuses to talk to him, refuses to consider him as a reference, and says, no, I want to talk to Saudi Arabia because he is not important. It's a very personal act of hostility and animosity against Hadi. And Ali Abdullah Saleh has this issue to solve. Remember, he personalizes things, and if you observe his speeches very carefully, he will only mention dialogue with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as a way to marginalize and say no to even the very act of just talking to Hadi. He does not want Hadi to be in the picture, and that is wrong. Because Hadi is respected worldwide, Hadi is respected by the coalition, and Ali Abdullah Saleh is not respected. From the moment he joined the sectarian forces of the Houthis, he lost respect by his neighbors. He lost respect by the legitimate government of Yemen, and he lost respect internationally. You know how many resolutions are against Ali Abdullah Saleh in the United Nations, against his movement and against the way he operates or stores or spends his money, along with many of his close aides. So Ali Abdullah Saleh is not respected, and I observe that. Many people observe how Ali Abdullah Saleh builds some sort of self-respect. This goes along with some beautiful theories in Arab politics that I have read. Especially in the context of the Arab world, when you have a tyrant, a dictator, who utilizes certain events to his advantage in order for him to transform his image into a hero. A tyrant becoming a hero overnight. And I mean, this is not the only, Ali Abdullah Saleh is not the only example. Look at a tyrant in Damascus telling the whole world that he is a hero fighting terrorists from 82 to 83 countries. This is the mentality of the traditional Arab dictator or tyrant. Once he can twist certain situations to his advantage and to becoming or transforming into a hero, he will. And it has also to do with Arab psyche in general. I do want to go into that so much in detail, because some people here, even after years of the death and the demise of Saddam Hussein, the dictator, the tyrant, they are making a hero out of him, when in fact he lived and died as a dictator. regardless of his enemies in Iraq, regardless of the fact that Iraq is much worse now than it was during the dictatorship of Saddam Hussein. Once people are put in more miserable situations than the miserable situations they were already in, they do tend to create heroes out of ex-dictators and tyrants. A lot of people in Syria probably will believe that Bashar al-Assad, the tyrant, he is a tyrant, his father was a tyrant before him. They will believe that they are fighting terrorists. Back to our tyrant changed into hero, Ali Abdullah Saleh. It is a game that he is playing. And this game I've mentioned on your shows, Hussein, and in other shows
Earlier
on
on,
Channel
yes.
2. You are dealing with a guy who is changing the very vocabulary of the conflict, from a vocabulary of sectarianists, separatists, coup d'etat people, into the vocabulary of a Yemeni population fighting international aggression and international or regional attack against Yemen. Therefore, he creates a hero for himself. It's a chance for him. The coalition is aware of that. And I think the international community is aware of that. Moreover, the Yemeni people are aware of that. You are not going to be a hero, Mr. Saleh, only a few years after you were a horrible tyrant for 33 years. But they do try these things, and you watch it. You watch it on a daily basis. Listen to him. This guy is only genuinely concerned about defending Yemen against outside aggression, and this is nonsense. This is nonsense. The story is exactly the opposite of what he says.
That's great. Mr. Mohammed, let's move on to a very important thing when it comes, as you mentioned, the international community support for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in restoring legitimacy in Yemen. We have also now the new U.S. administration, represented by Donald Trump as the President of the United States. He will visit the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Do you think that this will be reflected positively, especially on the Yemeni crisis?
Yes, it will, and thank you for raising that question. And I have never shied from the fact that I described the former President of the United States many times while he was in office. I described him for what he was in relationship to Arab crises since 2011.
In a way or another.
President Obama, and I mentioned this repeatedly and systematically, and others mention it even better than I do, failed the course of revolutions in many Arab countries, failed the democratic and beautiful aspirations of the Syrian people to live a better life and get rid of this tyranny and dictatorship of a son of a father who also did the same. He failed it big times, and for years, not for a month or two, for years and years. And Saudi Arabia did not like that one bit, because you have an alliance with a country that does come to your rescue. Much like you go to its rescue when it needs you. We do so much to the United States. We do so much to the Western industrial nations. We stabilize the production and prices of oil. We stabilize the region. We are a force of good, a force of moderation, a force of stability. I've heard this, Zain. I've heard it from Tokyo to New York to everywhere I go, and everybody I read in the news. Saudi Arabia is a force of stability, and Obama failed his Gulf partners big time. And I am talking here about the revolution in Syria. He failed it big times, and he did not help much in helping the Arab Gulf coalition to protect and restore the legitimacy in Yemen. And who is more aware of this than I am? The new administration. The new administration is so aware. I'm not praising the new administration, but I'm praising its timely awareness that the former administration almost lost the clout of America and its alliances in the Arab world. And it's doing something about it. It's going to do something about Yemen. At least giving us moral support and material support and encouraging us to do the right job, which is implementing 2216 and restoring a correct course of politics in Yemen instead of a dead-end sectarian outcome, a dead-end outcome of tyrants, past tyrants trying to,
and dictatorship.
Shamelessly transform into heroes. We are doing that, and I think President Trump is aware of that. We are doing much more than our constructive role in Yemen. We are leading the Muslim world in fighting terrorism and instilling moderate and middle of the road politics where faiths can interact, religions can live in peace, and radicals and terrorists can be defeated. I mean, what more can I say? We are going to have 3 summits in a span of a 2-day, 3-day visit by Trump in a matter of days in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. A summit between 2 allies for the past 60 plus years, Saudi Arabia and the United States of America. A summit between the United States leadership and the GCC entity, and a summit between the United States of America and key Arab and Muslim countries who are willing to defeat radicalism and sectarianism and present the world with a better vision, future vision for Islam and for international relations and so forth. And we do thank the administration in the White House for its courage, for its enthusiasm to engage in all of this, and for its determination, Zain, that is more important than anything I've said, determination to reverse the politics of the past, of the former administration that occupied the White House for the past 8 years. That's how I see it.
And the result of that is, for example, a nuclear deal with Iran at the expense of the Arab and Islamic countries' interests, by spreading chaos, destruction, and also supporting the sectarian violence.
Yes, I don't know what the Trump administration will do to the deal in particular, but it is being aware. It is now, it is in full knowledge.
And at least he will reconsider it.
What matters to us is that the White House is in full knowledge that Iran basically conducts non-stop or gets engaged in a process of non-stop negotiations with anybody, including Saudi Arabia, while they achieve slowly and without any sense of neighborliness or anything, achieve their own goals. Iran is determined to own a nuclear bomb. And what Obama and his 5+ nations did was basically slow it down and giving Iran a chance, without respect to their traditional alliances, giving Iran a chance to hegemonize the entire Arab world, as much of it as it can.
Doctor,
both mistakes are big mistakes.
We've reached the end of this episode. We cannot but thank you very much for spending this time with us and also giving us vigorous background and detailed information on this issue. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Zain, very much.
Thank you. Dear viewers, we've reached the end of this episode. We cannot but thank you very much for watching. A special thanks for Nahad Al-Fadl, Yazid Al-Husseini, Khalid Walid, and the director of this program, Turki Al-Houti. Until we meet again, have a good and pleasant time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.